It was a little after 7 on a cool Thursday night, and I was standing in the kitchen of the house we used to call our dream. The dishwasher was running, giving off that steady hum that makes a place feel settled. Everything around me looked perfect, like something out of a home magazine. Clean counters, polished floors, not a thing out of place. I was slicing into the lemon herb chicken I had cooked, thinking maybe, just maybe, we would sit down and have one normal dinner. My wife, Lauren, was pouring herself a glass of white wine. She always held the bottle like she was performing surgery, tilting it slow and exact, like even pouring a drink had to look refined. I tried to keep my voice easy, like I was just double-checking plans. So, I am still good to drive you to your corporate event tomorrow night, right? I had cleared my schedule for it. Canceled a client dinner. Moved a meeting. I wanted to be there for her. Lauren did not look at me right away. She kept her eyes on the glass, turning the stem between her fingers before taking a small sip. Then, still facing away from me, she said, calm as ever, "I think it is better if you do not come." My hand froze in midair, knife hovering over the cutting board. "I am sorry, what?" She finally glanced at me. Her face was cool, controlled, like she had practiced the line in her head. "You will just make it awkward." I set the knife down slow and careful, like it might explode if I moved too fast. "Awkward how?" She took another sip before answering. "The way you dress. The way you talk. This is not really your kind of crowd. They would not get you." I let out a short laugh. Not because it was funny. It was just that the hit landed so fast I did not know how else to react. "The way I dress. Lauren, I run my own business. I wear custom jackets. The one I have on right now cost more than your last bonus." She rolled her eyes like I was missing the point entirely. "That is not what I mean." "Then what do you mean?" I walked around the kitchen island, so I was standing in front of her. "Is this about how I look? Or is it about how I do not match whatever image you are trying to keep up with your coworkers?" She did not hesitate. "I just do not want to spend the whole night explaining you." That one hit me straight in the chest. "Explaining me?" I repeated. "Explaining your husband of 7 years." She looked down into her wine glass like it suddenly held the secrets of the universe. I swallowed hard and tried to keep my voice steady. "Lauren, I have shown up for you every single time. I supported you through your entire Master of Business Administration program. I was there for every promotion, every round of layoffs you thought might take you out, every company shift and leadership change. I stood by you through all of it. And now I embarrass you?" She barely reacted. "This is not about you, David. Do not turn it into something bigger than it is." "But it is something," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "You do not even want me in the room at your own event." She turned her back on me and walked to the refrigerator. "You would just make it awkward," she muttered over her shoulder. I stood there in the middle of a kitchen we had chosen tile by tile together. Every cabinet handle, every light fixture. We built it like we were building a life. And suddenly the room felt colder, like the air had shifted. She closed the refrigerator door and walked down the hallway without another word. I was still standing there in my jacket, staring at the knife I had placed down so carefully, like it was just another object in a house that had to look perfect from the outside. I used to believe we were solid. Not flashy, not dramatic, just steady. She was the driven one, always climbing. I was the one laying the foundation, brick by brick, both in our business life and at home. I thought we balanced each other out. But standing there alone, I started to wonder what we even were anymore. As her footsteps faded away, I felt something coming apart inside me. Something I had not even realized was worn thin. The next evening, the rooftop bar downtown looked like a scene out of a high-end magazine. Soft golden lights. A wide view of the city skyline. Everyone dressed sharp and confident, like they had been born knowing they belonged in places like that. I did not feel like I belonged. Not that night. But I showed up anyway. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped into the low buzz of conversations and the steady clink of glasses. I was wearing the same jacket Lauren once told me made me look like a man who could run a boardroom in his sleep. Now, apparently, it was a problem. I scanned the crowd until I found her. Lauren was sitting at a long table covered in white linen, surrounded by her coworkers. Her posture was perfect. Her laugh sounded just a little too polished, like she had practiced it. She was leaning toward a tall guy with slicked back hair and a watch that flashed every time he lifted his hand. I moved through the crowd slow and steady. I was not angry. I was not loud. I just needed to see this for myself. When I reached the table, I waited. She looked up. The moment she saw me, her face changed. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, her voice tight with panic. I was invited. I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket and placed the envelope on the table. "Your chief executive officer sent it." Her eyes dropped to the name printed at the bottom. Melissa Grant, Senior Vice President. I watched the recognition hit her. Then the worry. "You should not have come," she said through clenched teeth. I leaned in slightly, keeping my voice calm and even. "Why?" I asked her, keeping my voice steady. "Because I actually know how to hold a real conversation? Or because I do not match the picture you are trying to sell to them?" Lauren's eyes flicked to the man sitting next to her, then around the table. She forced a tight little smile, but it never reached her eyes. "Just eat by yourself," she muttered as she pushed her chair back and stood up fast. "You are embarrassed of me, Lauren?" I started to say more, but she was already walking away like I was a problem she could leave behind and forget. I stood there for a second, feeling the weight of it. Then I pulled out the empty chair she left and sat down. I folded the invitation and slid it back into my jacket pocket. A waiter came up beside me. "Would you like something to drink, sir?" "Scotch," I said, looking out over the bright city skyline. "Neat." People walked past laughing, holding up their phones to take pictures of themselves with the city lights behind them. I sat there and watched the blur of it all, letting the quiet settle deep in my chest. I was not there to make a scene. That was what Lauren was afraid of. Some loud moment. Some mistake that might crack her polished image. But I was not there to put on a show. I was there to see the truth with my own eyes. A burst of laughter rose from the group at her table. I glanced over and saw Lauren coming back, smiling like nothing had happened. Like I had not just been dismissed like some delivery driver who wandered into the wrong party. She did not look at me. Not once. The scotch went down warm and slow. I turned the glass in my hand, tracing the rim with my finger. I was not trying to listen in. I was not trying to stir up trouble. But I saw enough. Lauren had slipped back into her seat like the whole thing never happened. Her back faced me, but I could see the side of her face when she leaned toward that tall guy with the perfect hair and the watch that flashed under the lights. Her laugh carried across the rooftop. It was louder than it needed to be. Sharp. Polished. I knew her real laugh. The one she used to have at home when we were alone. This was not it. Then I noticed something else. He leaned a little too close. Not enough to make a scene. Just enough to show comfort. Like they shared jokes and moments I had not been part of for a long time. His hand brushed her elbow when she leaned back. She did not move away. A tight knot formed in my chest. I did not even realize I had gone completely still until I heard my name called from across the rooftop. "David." I turned, and my expression softened right away. 3 women were walking toward me, confident and sharp, dressed like they were used to running rooms instead of waiting for permission. Olivia, Brooke, and Natalie. I had not expected to see them there. They were not just friends. They were my business partners, investors, strong women who had helped me grow my company from a small local firm into a national operation over the last few years. Olivia grinned at me. "What are you doing over here alone? Looking mysterious?" I stood up and shook their hands, smiling for real for the first time that night. "Just enjoying the view," I said. "You 3 are the ones lighting up the place." Brooke laughed as she slid into the chair next to me. "Please." Natalie almost started a bidding war in 6-inch heels earlier. Natalie smirked. And I won. We all laughed. A real laugh. The kind that does not feel forced. That was when Lauren noticed. I did not see her walk closer, but I saw her stop across the rooftop. Her eyes locked onto us at the exact moment Olivia leaned in to whisper something in my ear. It was business talk. Nothing romantic. But it was close enough to look personal from a distance. Lauren's laughter cut off mid-sound. The man next to her kept talking, not even realizing what had changed, until she stood up without warning. Brooke saw it first. "You okay?" she asked, following my line of sight. I shrugged lightly. "Just an interesting evening." Olivia narrowed her eyes. "You mean Lauren?" I looked at her. "You know her?" "We met once," Olivia said. "At that charity gala last year." "She barely spoke to us," Brooke added, glancing toward Lauren, who was standing stiff as a statue. Did not seem too thrilled about the strong businesswomen crowd. Natalie tilted her head. I thought she seemed nice. Just distant. Like she was trying very hard not to stand out. That comment landed harder than I expected. I looked back at Lauren. She had not moved. Her face looked flat now. Her arms were crossed over her chest like she was cold. even though the night air was warm and comfortable. She sees us, Natalie said quietly. I know, I answered. That is the point. For the next 20 minutes, we talked about expansion plans, about the new technology incubator I was launching, about their upcoming investor weekend in San Diego. It was easy, natural, no pretending. Across the rooftop, Lauren never sat back down. She just stood there watching. It was well past midnight when we finally got home. The sharp click of Lauren's heels on the hardwood floor echoed down the hallway in front of me like a countdown. She did not say a word in the elevator, did not look at me, did not even sigh. But the second we stepped inside the house, she turned on me. You planned that, she snapped, throwing her purse onto the cabinet by the door harder than necessary. I blinked and calmly hung up my jacket. Planned what? Do not act stupid, David, she shot back, spinning around to face me. You knew Olivia and those women would be there. I walked into the living room, loosening my cuff links slow and steady, keeping my voice even. What exactly are you accusing me of? I did not know they would be there, I told her, keeping my tone level. But I was invited. By your chief executive officer. You remember that part, right? Oh, please, Lauren shot back, following me into the living room. You sat there with them like some kind of business king, laughing and holding court while I looked like a complete fool across the room. I turned slowly to face her. You left me sitting at that table, I said. She crossed her arms tight across her chest. Because you were not supposed to be there. You mean because you did not want me there? I corrected, calm but firm. Her jaw tightened. You embarrassed me. I let out a sharp breath. How? By not shrinking into a corner when you told me to eat alone? That is not the point, she snapped. It was about the optics. There it is, I said. The optics. She paused, eyes narrowing. That is not what I meant. It is exactly what you meant, I replied, stepping a little closer. You did not want me there because you thought I would mess up your image. You were so focused on looking polished in front of your coworkers that you forgot one of them was your husband. She folded her arms even tighter. This is not about you. No, I agreed. It is about you pretending I do not exist when it is inconvenient. She scoffed. You are twisting this. Am I? I walked past her into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. Because from where I was sitting, you looked pretty comfortable with that guy. She went quiet. What is his name? I asked. Tall. Expensive watch. Likes to lean in close. Her face went still. Do not you dare? I set the glass down on the counter, not hard, but firm enough to make a point. I am not accusing you of anything, I said. I am just telling you what I saw. She shook her head and stepped away like I was something she could not stand to look at. You made me look small, David. I stood there in the middle of our open living room. Clean lines. Designer rug. Custom shelves we had argued about for weeks before installing. I was staring at a woman I thought I understood completely. I did not make you look small, I said. You did that yourself the second you treated me like a public relations mistake. Her voice dropped low and bitter. This is exactly why I did not want you there. Why? I asked. Because you do not understand how hard I have worked to be taken seriously, she said. To walk into a room and not be seen as somebody's wife. And then you sit down with the most powerful women there. And suddenly, I am the one who looks like the accessory. I studied her face. You think I am a threat to your identity? I asked. She did not answer. I never asked you to stand behind me. I continued, softer now. I always wanted you beside me. I have never needed a spotlight. But last night, you acted like I did not even belong in your world. She turned away and walked to the kitchen island. She grabbed the edge with both hands like she needed it to stay upright. Her shoulders rose and fell as she tried to steady her breathing. I worked for years, she said, her voice shaking now. Years to be respected, to not be dismissed. And when you sat down with them, I saw the way people looked at you. Then they looked at me like I was lucky to have you, like I was riding your success. I stared at her. You really believe that? I asked quietly. She did not respond. I have never tried to overshadow you, I said. I have never once asked you to shrink. I have always been proud to stand next to you. She let go of the counter and turned around again. The steel in her eyes was gone. What was left looked messy, confused, maybe even scared. I do not know what we are anymore, she said. I nodded once. Yeah, me neither. We stood there in silence. The refrigerator hummed in the background, steady and indifferent. After a moment, she walked toward the hallway. She did not say goodnight. She did not look back. 3 days later, The afternoon sun poured through the glass walls of my office. It bounced off the marble floors and stretched long shadows across the leather chairs. I stood by the window, looking down at the city moving below. Traffic flowing. People hurrying. Everything working like a machine. The door opened softly behind me. I did not have to turn to know it was her. "Hey," Lauren said. Her voice sounded quieter than usual, almost careful. "Hey," I answered, turning around. She wore a charcoal blouse, her hair pinned up neat and professional. Always put together. Always controlled. Since the rooftop argument, we had only talked about basic things. Bills. Schedules. Who was picking up dry cleaning. No real conversations. Just transactions. I gestured toward the couch in my office. "You have a minute?" She nodded and sat on the edge like she did not plan to stay long. "I wanted to talk to you about something," I said, sitting down across from her. She folded her hands in her lap. "Okay. My company's anniversary gala is next Friday," I said. 10 years since I launched it. It is a big one. She gave me a tight smile. "Congratulations. That is a real milestone." "Thank you," I said. Then I took a breath. "I would like you to come." She blinked. "You are inviting me? You are my wife?" I said simply. "You have been there through every shift, every late night, every moment I thought the whole thing might collapse. This company would not exist without your support. It would not feel right if you were not there." She let out a slow breath, like the compliment made her uncomfortable. "I do not know," she said carefully. She looked at me and said, "I would just be standing around in high heels, smiling while everyone calls you sir." I gave her a steady look. "I am not asking you to play hostess. I am asking you to stand next to me the same way I have tried to stand next to you." Her eyes narrowed a little. "Tried." "Lauren," I said, softer this time. "I am not perfect. I know that. But I have shown up for you, even when it cost me something. Even when you made it clear you did not really want me there." She crossed her arms. "So this is about the rooftop." I shook my head. "No, this is about us. About making an effort. I am offering you a place where we are still a we. But I cannot force you into it." She let out a short, bitter laugh. "And what? I show up in a dress and suddenly everything is fixed?" "That is not what I said." "But that is what you mean," she fired back. "You want me to stand there at your party and look like the supportive wife, so everyone thinks we are some perfect power couple. Smile for pictures. Pretend everything is fine." I stood up slowly. "I want you there because you matter to me, not because you match the decorations." She stood too, her arms locked tight across her chest. "I am not your accessory, David. I am not going to play chief executive officer's wife for a night just to boost your ego." "You are not an accessory," I said quietly. "You are the reason I had the courage to build any of this in the first place. But right now, I am starting to wonder if you ever really believed in it." She did not respond. She picked up her bag from the couch and headed for the door. At the threshold, she stopped without turning around. "I will not be your maid in high heels," she said coldly. Then she walked out. I stood by the window for a long time after that, staring down at the city. Only this time, everything looked a little blurry. The night of the gala came faster than I expected. The chandelier above the ballroom glittered like a frozen sky full of stars, casting warm light over polished floors and white tablecloths. Soft jazz drifted through the room. Glasses clinked. Cameras flashed. The whole place buzzed with celebration. My smile stayed right where it belonged, fixed and polite. My tuxedo was pressed sharp. My name was printed on banners near the entrance. People stopped me every few steps. "David, this is incredible. 10 years. You should be proud." I nodded, shook hands, thanked them, gave short laughs in the right places. But underneath the tuxedo and the praise, I felt detached, like I was watching myself from the outside, separated by a pane of glass. I had imagined this night differently. I pictured Lauren beside me in something bold and elegant. The two of us moving through the room like we used to. Me handling the numbers and strategy. Her winning over skeptical board members with that sharp mind and easy charm she used to show me at home. But that version of us felt like it belonged to another lifetime. "Mr. Cole," a voice said near my shoulder. I turned and saw one of the board members reaching out to shake my hand, smiling wide. "Congratulations again. 10 years is no small achievement." "Thank you," I said, gripping his hand. "Your wife must be very proud." I held his gaze a second too long. "She was not able to attend tonight." He nodded politely and moved on, but his words stayed with me. I drifted toward the edge of the ballroom, near the tall windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. The city outside sparkled. Cars moved like tiny sparks below. Buildings stood tall and quiet, outlined in gold light. It looked perfect. Things always do from far enough away. Behind me, I heard a familiar laugh. It was Brooke. Natalie was with her, holding a pale pink drink in a thin glass. They had waved me over earlier, but I had smiled and stayed where I was. I did not feel like talking about quarterly growth or potential mergers. Truthfully, I did not feel like talking at all. I noticed guests posing for pictures with their spouses. Wide smiles, arms wrapped tight around each other. The kind of photos that end up in newsletters and social media posts. Couples looking united, strong. And I felt it then. That hollow knock deep in my chest. Where was she? Not physically. I knew where Lauren probably was. Maybe curled up on the sectional at home with a blanket around her shoulders. Maybe watching a series. Maybe scrolling through articles about independence and boundaries. But emotionally, she felt like she was in another galaxy. And I did not even know if she missed being there. I pulled my phone from my pocket and checked the screen. No messages. No missed calls. No good luck tonight. No, I am proud of you. Nothing. I slid the phone back into my pocket, straightened my jacket, and walked toward the photographer setting up near a tall floral display. He lifted his camera. Would you like a solo shot? I hesitated for a second. Then I nodded. The flash went off. Just me, standing alone in the middle of a celebration I built from the ground up. For the first time since I started that company, I was not even sure who I built it for. The front door clicked shut behind me when I got home. The sound echoed through the dark penthouse. The whole night still hung on my shoulders like a heavy, damp coat I could not shake off. I did not turn on the lights. I did not need to. The moonlight pouring in through the tall windows was enough to guide me. I knew every inch of that place. At least I used to. Lately it felt like I was walking through somebody else's life. I loosened my tie and let out a long breath. The silence felt thick. Then it broke. I saw the pictures. Lauren's voice cut through the dark. She was standing at the end of the hallway, arms folded, her figure outlined by the glow of the city behind her. I blinked and rubbed my eyes. What pictures? From your event, she said, walking toward me. You and your assistant. Sophie, right? She had her arms around you like she owned the place. I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door. It was a hug, I said. A simple hug. She worked 18-hour days for 2 straight weeks to pull that gala together. She deserved a thank you. Lauren's jaw tightened. That is what that was. A thank you hug? Because from where I was sitting, it looked intimate. I looked at her carefully. Where were you sitting exactly? She hesitated. At home. So you were scrolling through event hashtags while I was shaking hands and smiling through a migraine. I wanted to see how it went, she said, defensive now. I walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator without thinking, then shut it again. Maybe you should have been there, I said. So I could watch her hang all over you in person? She shot back, following me. I turned slowly. It was a moment, Lauren. Not a scandal. You did not look uncomfortable, she said, her eyes narrowing. You looked like you enjoyed it. And you did not look uncomfortable laughing with that guy on the rooftop last week, I replied. But I did not accuse you of crossing a line. She stiffened. I lowered my voice. Do not rewrite things just to shift the guilt. You have changed, she said suddenly. Her voice was softer now. You come home later. You dress sharper. You feel distant. I have always dressed sharp, I answered, tired. You are just noticing again. Is it her? She asked quietly. Sophie. I blinked. No, it is not Sophie. It is you. It is us. This, whatever this is. She folded her arms tighter like she was bracing for impact. You do not talk to me anymore, she said. I have tried, I answered. Every conversation lately ends with you walking out or rolling your eyes. She looked away. I moved past her toward the hallway. I am not fighting tonight. I have done enough pretending for one day. So you are just walking away? She called after me. No, I said without turning. I am choosing peace for once. I went into the guest room and closed the door. Not slammed, just closed. A quiet thud from a man who had nothing left in him to argue. The next morning, the smell of coffee filled the kitchen. That smell used to make the house feel warm and safe. Now it just made the silence louder. I sat at one end of the island with a mug in my hands. It was hot, but my fingers felt numb around it. Lauren stood across from me, stirring cream into her cup, slow and absent-minded. She had not said a word since I walked in. I was thinking, I said carefully. Maybe we should talk. She kept stirring. I do not mean fight, I added. I mean actually talk. She finally looked up at me. Her face was blank. Talk about what? About us, I said. About where we are? About where we are going. If we are even going anywhere. She tapped the spoon against the side of her mug and set it down. I am tired, David. So am I answered. But we cannot keep living like this. Like roommates who share a mortgage and avoid eye contact. She leaned back against the counter. I do not know what you want from me. I want honesty, I said. I want effort. I want to feel like I matter again. Something shifted in her expression, but she stayed quiet. We have not laughed together in weeks, I continued. We have not touched in longer than I can remember. You pull away when I try to hold your hand. And when I speak, I cannot tell if you are listening or just waiting for a reason to leave the room. Still nothing. Lauren, I said gently, do you even want this marriage anymore? She looked at me then. Really looked at me. I do not know, she whispered. Those 4 words hurt more than any shouting match we had ever had. I see, I said quietly, nodding. She turned away, picked up her coffee, and walked toward the living room window. She stared out at the city like it might give her answers. Her posture told me everything her voice did not. Closed off. Exhausted. Already halfway gone. I stayed sitting at the kitchen island long after she walked away. I had held on for a long time. I swallowed cold shoulders. I stepped around emotional landmines. I kept telling myself that if I just gave it enough time, something would shift, that we would find our way back. But time does not fix a crack in the wall if nobody is holding it together from the other side. I set my coffee mug down, stood up, and walked into my office. 15 minutes later, I picked up my phone and called Michael, my lawyer. I had saved his number months ago, not because I was planning to use it, but because some quiet part of me knew this day might come. I am ready, I said. The next 7 days passed in a blur. Work, sleep, short, empty exchanges about groceries and schedules, paperwork, meetings with Michael, signing forms, the kind of tasks you do with your head down so your heart does not get in the way. By the time the final papers were printed, I felt numb. That evening moved slower than the rest. Outside, the sky turned that soft indigo color that usually brings peace. Inside our home, it felt like the air was holding its breath. I walked in after work, loosened my tie, and paused by the front door. Lauren was on the couch again. Same blanket, same curled posture, like nothing in the world had shifted. The television was off. Just silence. She did not look up when I stepped inside, but I saw her fingers tighten around the edge of the throw pillow. She knew I was there. I walked forward slowly, the folder in my hands. I printed the final version, I said gently. She looked up at me then. Her eyes were red around the edges. Cloudy. I could not tell if she had been crying or just had not been sleeping. Probably both. I placed the folder on the coffee table. I did not slam it. I did not sigh. I just set it down like a truth that had been waiting too long. She stared at it like it might burn her. After a long pause, she whispered, "This is not what I wanted." I sat down on the other end of the couch. I left space between us. Not out of anger. Out of respect. "What did you think would happen?" I asked quietly. She swallowed. "I did not mean for us to get here. I thought we just needed space." "For a week," I said, steady. "You did not talk to me. You barely looked at me. I tried to reach you, and your answer was silence." She shook her head slowly. "I was scared." "Of what?" She hesitated. "Of you walking away." "I did not walk away," I said. "I stood still. I waited for you to come back." She looked down at her lap. Her fingers dug into the blanket like she was holding on to something solid. "I thought if I gave it time, things would go back to normal." "What part of this feels normal to you?" I asked. She did not answer. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, hands clasped together. "You told me I embarrassed you," I said. "You accused me of things I did not do. You shut me out. And then you seemed surprised when I stopped knocking." Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came. "I tried," I said softly. "I invited you back in. I asked you to stand beside me. You said no. Every time I reached out, you pulled away." Her voice cracked, because I did not know how to ask for what I needed. I looked at her then, not with anger, just with the same tired heartbreak that had followed me from room to room in that house. "You did not have to ask for perfect," I said. "You just had to ask for me." Tears filled her eyes. She blinked fast, like crying would make it too real. "I miss us," she whispered. "I miss when we were easy." I gave a faint, sad smile. "We were never easy, but we were honest." She looked at the folder again, then back at me. Is this really it? She asked. That depends on you, I said. Her breath caught. What if I said I want to try? Really try. No more games. No more silence. I leaned back slowly. The ache in my chest shifted, but it did not disappear. Trying should have started before I had to ask a lawyer how to spell your middle name, I said. Silence filled the room again. Heavy. Unanswered. Without another word, she stood up, picked up the folder, and walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. I heard the lock click. But this time it did not sound final. It sounded afraid. Morning came slow and golden, sunlight filtering through the curtains like a quiet whisper. I had not made it to the bed. I fell asleep on the couch in yesterday's shirt. My phone lay face down on the coffee table. The folder was still there, untouched. Before I opened my eyes, I felt something. Not heavy. Soft. Familiar. Lauren. She was curled up against me, her head tucked under my chin, her legs folded beside mine. Her body trembled, just slightly, like she had spent hours trying not to cry. And now she could not stop. I did not move. I barely breathed. Then I felt it. The first tears soaked through my shirt. Lauren, I whispered. She did not lift her head. Her voice came out small and cracked, muffled against my chest. I did not know how to stop pushing you away. And by the time I understood what I was doing, you already felt so far from me. I let my hand rest on her back, slow and steady. I never left, I said. More tears followed. I was terrified, David, she said. Terrified of becoming your shadow. Of being that woman who only exists in the background of her husband's success story. I closed my eyes. The hurt in her voice cut deeper than any argument we had ever had. You were never the shadow, I told her softly. You were the reason I kept going. She shifted, lifting her head just enough to look at me. Her face was bare. No makeup. No walls. Just the woman I married. You mean that? She asked. I nodded. She placed her hand over my heart. I thought you would stop needing me, she said. And once I believed that, I started trying to prove I did not need you either. And how did that work out? I asked gently. She gave a broken little smile, like standing in a house full of light and realizing you shut all the windows yourself. I did not answer right away. I just wrapped my arms around her and held her there, grounding both of us. Her voice dropped again. Is it too late? I brushed a strand of hair away from her cheek. No, I said. But it has to be real this time. She nodded against me. No more silence. No more silence, I agreed. And for the first time in what felt like forever, we just stayed there. No rushing. No fixing. Just breathing. Just warmth. Just the quiet that comes when two people finally stop fighting and start listening. 6 months later, the air in our home felt different. Spring had pushed winter out the door, but that was not the real change. The silence that once filled our rooms had been replaced with something better. Conversation. Laughter. The clink of coffee mugs. The sound of real life happening again. We did not restart with some dramatic promise. There was no magic moment that erased everything. We made a quiet choice. If we were going to do this, we would do it with open hands and open hearts. We started counseling. It was uncomfortable at first. Neither of us liked sitting in a room where someone asked questions we had spent years avoiding. But week after week, we kept showing up. Little by little, we dug up the fears we had buried. The stories we had told ourselves about each other that were not true. One day in a session, I looked at her and said, I did not marry a trophy. I married a fighter. I married the woman who stood beside me when I had nothing but a pitch deck and 2 clients. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not hide them. And I did not marry a spotlight, she said. I married the man who made me believe I could do more than just survive. Some days were still hard. We did not pretend healing was smooth. It was messy, slow, a steady climb with plenty of slips along the way. But we kept choosing each other. Then came another celebration. This time, it was not about me. It was about us. Lauren had launched her own strategic brand consulting firm, and it partnered with my company's platform. It was her idea, her clients, her name printed at the top of every invitation. We stood together at the entrance of a boutique hotel ballroom. It felt different from the last gala. I was not the only one being introduced with pride. She wore navy that night. Sharp, elegant, completely herself. People came to meet her. They shook her hand. They listened when she spoke. And I stood beside her exactly where I wanted to be. Cameras flashed as we posed near the welcome display. Just before the photographer snapped the picture, she leaned close. I never realized, she whispered near my ear, that I already had the best man in the room. I did not say anything back. I did not have to. She knew. And this time, so did I. That is how our story stands. Sometimes I still think about the night she picked up that divorce folder and walked down the hallway, locking the bedroom door behind her because she could not face the damage between us. Was that the moment everything almost ended? Or was it the moment we both realized we could not keep living in silence? I do not know, but I do know this. Silence almost cost me my marriage. Honesty brought it back.